I think those of us who spend more time trying to genuinely get to know the people that we're meeting and tell those voices in the back of our head that want to sell the service to just shut up and sit down for a while,
Mhm.
that to me is the fastest track to building authentic trust, genuine interest in the lives of others. And you might discover that you have something that they need, and you might not if you're quiet enough on the inside.
Mhm.
Because you might end up needing to give a referral and tell them to go down the street where they sell cat food and not dog food. We sell dog food here. You forgot to tell me you had a cat. You need to go down the street, instead of spending a whole hour talking about your love for animals. Ugh. So the more we listen to others, the more we get them to tell their stories, and often it's stories outside of work, that usually the faster track we have at building trust. And I think that's super important.
I
Every
love that,
business
man.
is different, Chris. Some of us have a lot of time, some of us have microseconds to do this, but there's always a strategic way to get that authentic interest in the other person's life in the mix, as
Mhm.
fast as we can.
Yeah, I think that approach, our close rate is high 90s. If it's a fit, we're going to close that business.
Welcome to the Exceptional Companies Podcast, a podcast for purpose-led entrepreneurs looking to master the art of buying, selling, or optimizing small businesses. Your host, Chris Seegers, founder of Exceptional Companies and author of Selling Main Street, has over a decade of experience starting, buying, and leading successful businesses. He's here to guide you through the complex world of business transactions and growth. Each week, we dive deep with actionable insights, expert interviews, and real-world strategies to activate and equip you to live exceptionally and build exceptional businesses. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Here's your host, Chris Seegers.
Welcome to the Exceptional Companies Podcast, where we chat about how to buy, grow, and eventually sell your business. I've got an incredible guest today, and that's HB Pasley. HB is a man of influence and conviction. He had a professional career in music, and then he took his massive creative brain and he said, I want to help businesses grow. So I'm going to help them with branding, with marketing, with growth strategies. And I think you're one of the most interesting people I met this year. So HB, welcome to the show, brother.
Well, that's an award worth earning. And I don't know how I got there, but I'm glad to be on your hot list,
It's
Chris.
probably
Awesome.
who
Thanks
you're
for
married
inviting me.
to. It's who you're
Yeah,
married to.
well, correct. The only time I ever come in the door when they trust me is if Robin comes in the door first. So you're welcome.
Same on my end. I love it, man. Well, let's go. So we always start with the story. Tell us a little bit about your background, professional journey, and then why you got into entrepreneurship and helping people grow their businesses and brands.
I can do it. I grew up in the deep South. My family's still there. My two brothers practice medicine in the small town we grew up in, which is awesome because my parents had two sons that stayed near the house, and I was the wild one, who left. When I went to college, I was in Birmingham, Alabama. I joined this music team, which is very cool. You grew up in a small town in a little tiny conservative church, you don't get to play music with a drummer and a bass player and things like that. So I thought I had joined Zeppelin when I made this team in college. So we're playing these church gigs and we're doing these things that I thought were, kind of middle of the road. And then the guy who led this team booked us at a juvenile hall. Okay, so it's going to be, you can imagine, a bunch of, fairly well-to-do white kids at a private Christian college. And we performed a concert for 200 black kids in a gymnasium on the west side of Birmingham. And I don't know if I told you about this, Chris, but it was one of the worst concerts ever performed. It's going to be in some heavenly registry for good heart, bad execution.
Love it.
I mean, the jokes were bad, music was bad, anecdotes were bad. Like we just had no clue how to relate. So we leave this concert, the doors close on that prison, clunk. I can see even the chaplain is disappointed. That's when you know you've really not done well at all. And the whole team is standing around the parking lot going, whose idea was this? This is horrible. I mean, everybody felt it, that it was really bad. And that was the point in my journey. Let's say I'm 18. It dropped into my heart that I knew for a fact I could do that better. And I spent the next several decades of my professional life, over 3 decades, just trying to sort out how do you deliver a message, especially if that message is love, encouragement, a boost, right, an enhancement. How do you deliver that in a way that will be successful. And of course, most of my journey, I was delivering messages of faith. But along that process, I just learned that everyone you meet, whether in group or one-on-one, you need to take special care to make sure that what you're trying to get across is actually getting to them in a way that they can receive it, or, what's the point? And I think that's how my journey toward business advising and helping business owners grow their businesses sort of evolved over many decades. So I bring a lot of experience in messaging to begin with, and then how to really make that human connection that's authentic. Because you got to be trusted fast if you're delivering some big juju.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So where do you want to dig in? Do you want to dig in on the music side, on the business side, on what you're excited about next year, this year? Where do you want to take this, HP?
That's a good question. Music for me was, it's like a journey that I went on. Like if you went on an around the world trek, it just took you 35 years to get around the world. When you came back, you could spend all your time looking in the picture portfolio, your scrapbooks, or you could kind of settle down and see what's next. I'm in a very what's next mood in my journey. You've met my
Love
wife,
it.
Robin. I mean, I married one of the most dynamic, pioneering women in the known universe. And we're really deep, deep into our second careers now. She was braver than I was 13 years ago, 14, almost can't do the math anymore. 2013, she realized that she was ready for her second career. We had worked together over many, many years, and she went back to school, completed her training and national certification in interior design for commercial and business purposes only. Well, I should say she evolved into a business and commercial interior design practice. And as I was growing my work with business owners, doing coaching, touching things like exit planning, touching things like client experience and how we can use that to build authentic connections with clients and our team, we sort of grew together and we started growing closer together. So I was in one column doing business advising, and she was in this other column doing commercial interior design. And one of the things that we have in common that I'm excited about in the years to come, and I said years because I think this is like some sort of resonance that we've hit together, is
Nice.
that business owners don't need to spend money with a designer, like an interior designer, and they shouldn't spend money with marketing teams either, which they do all the time, until they firmly establish their own brand story and have developed the core, the very central value offering and the central message on how they're going to connect to their ideal client. And then they can go out into the world and spend those dollars that help distribute their wisdom and their value to the world. So what I do is I focus on developing business brands and sales strategies with the same clients who come in the door thinking they might want to start with interior design. And some do, they go straight to it because they've got all their branding together. But those who need some assistance and some coaching and some development, I take time with them to help them develop that sales strategy so that every dollar counts when they get to the design and the public stuff. So that's what I'm really excited about, is learning how to do that better, learning how to do that more in concert with Robin, because I do some of that sort of still in my business coaching column, my vertical, but doing it with her has proved to be super fun.
I love that, man, because it's this coming together of the physical and the mental, like the intellectual, philosophical and the physical space. And it's so interesting when you go to a business and you walk in there and their interior design is terrible, and then out comes this superhero type A incredible person, right? And you're like, whoa, I almost can't listen to you because your space is so bad, and vice versa. Right? You get somebody in this incredible space that can't articulate the message, and you say, I can tell your interior design has some thought, and you understand how to create connectivity and build relationship through physical space. And yet you're not really telling me what you do. So I love that. What do you think are some of the bigger ingredients to getting the physical, mental brand right? Like, how do you approach this? How do you guys start with clients?
Well, maybe one of the first things you do is you define what value you're bringing so the client knows how to get their heads around it. For instance, in the, say, 5 or 6 years that I've been doing business coaching only, I would have never used the word branding to talk about my services or what I was doing, because if I say branding, we usually think of
A logo,
logos,
maybe. Yeah. Logo,
colors,
website.
stuff like that, collateral. I never entered a coaching relationship worried about that stuff. I was interested in helping that client identify their ideal client, identify their singular most powerful value proposition. And then once you know that, it's what you do is you go in there and you say, well, how do we dress ourselves to deliver that value? How can we become trustworthy and attractive and quickly known by our best clients? That's what branding is. It's getting dressed for work in an authentic way. And when you get dressed, then of course you have to go to the look and feel items. Of course, there are colors that bring certain feelings and atmospheres. If you painted your entire wall bright red behind you, it would say something about you and your taste and your energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And things like fonts and logos, and more importantly, things like taglines and business names, they're all speaking so quickly. So I like to separate those two things. First, I like to say, look, let's talk about branding first let's define it. Like, let's call it your authentic story that clearly demonstrates your value in a way that people trust you.
Mm.
Okay. That's how I would define branding. And then I'd say, okay, marketing is second. That's the people who are going to deliver this central core message to people in a way that they can get to you quickly. That might be through the internet, through ads, through posters, through collateral, through print, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And it also includes your interior designer. If you have a good commercial interior designer, they're not trying to make your space pretty or make it look like what you like or what they like. Believe it or not, newsflash. They should be trying to design your space so that it makes your best clients feel comfortable and help them trust you quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And there may be all kinds of things that need to be done in different spaces. The difference between a medical office and a financial advisor's office and a place that sells tires, these might be totally different deliverables of the visual, the things that we want to see when we come in. So I would define those first so that the client knows what they're dealing with. You need to get the engine before the caboose, and you need to do branding before marketing. And you'll quit rehiring a new marketing company every year and a half because they don't seem to be doing what you want them to do. I hate to tell you, it's bad news, but we're on a podcast so we can speak freely, right? Clients aren't
Mm-hmm.
with us, so they're sort of listening in. It's bad news to find out that you, business owner, are generally the problem. It's why your marketing hasn't evolved and gotten any better.
Mm-hmm.
It's because you keep hiring people that seem innovative and powerful and great, and they promise the moon with their marketing strategies, but you simply haven't clarified your authentic story to a point where they have something great to deliver. So you're asking them to make something beautiful out of some supplies that frankly are just not ready for prime time. And I think that's what's fun about my work is I'm getting to the heart and the center of the story first. So I probably went too long on that. Did I answer your question?
No, I love that, man. And I'll tell a story. So we're searching for a CPA, and what you communicated, I've never heard it said that way, which is, the physical intellectual space should be held for your client the way they want
Yeah.
to, right? The way they want to interact and
Yeah.
be communicated to. So we went to this meeting, and the office was chaos. It was crazy colors and furniture was real funky. And I'm going to hire an accountant, right? A CPA. I'm not going to Woodstock. I'm not going to watch a show or go to an art gallery. I'm kind of wanting a certain feel. And then both the accountants come in similar to the decor. Shirts untucked, t-shirts, which I'm like, man, if I'm going to pay you a lot of money, tens of thousands of dollars every year for tax returns, what I want to see is what I'm wearing, right? Like somebody that's like,
Yep.
hey, I dress nice because I don't want you to worry about my dress. The reason I dress the same
Right.
every day is because I don't even want people to think about, hey, Chris dresses a certain way. It's like a white shirt and blue pants every day. So then we can get down to the brass tacks of saying like, hey, how do I
Yeah.
serve you? But I love that, man. And I think articulating that, and we're still in that journey where we are I would say on a weekly basis, really challenging our branding, our identity as a company, and that changes. And one of our core tenets of our business, of our family office, is we're an innovation company. So we do actually change our identity, not some of the core values and thesis, but how we buy businesses, what industries, what real estate, kind of what asset classes. But I think you're right. We struggled for years spending money on marketing, and then realized one of the reasons we did this podcast is because when I iterate, it clarifies it so much quicker if you're actually practicing than just talking about it. Like if you put it on a piece
Right.
of paper, as opposed to talking to, dozens of people. I think I'm up to like 50 or so in talking about these concepts, and it really clarifies the branding. But I haven't heard many people make that demarcation of branding is this, right? Your authentic story. Marketing is the delivery mechanism. And so on that, how has that changed? Because for us, I'll be honest, it's very muddy. It's very noisy right now. We're using all kinds of branding philosophies as well as delivery mechanisms, and trying to understand, hey, do people want more of a raw, authentic? It seems like they're going that direction. Do they want a more polished? I'm kind of
Yeah.
not an anti-AI, but limited AI utility. So I don't want to put out a bunch of AI content that, creates these videos
Right.
for me. But what are you seeing, man, on what's working in today's environment for business owners?
Well, it's a great question, and it's a timely question because branding over time has changed a lot. I mean, I was in college in the 80s, okay? So I'm ancient. So if you talk to somebody about branding in the 80s or 90s, it would have been one thing. But we're living in a digital age, and the speed at which people are able to deliver first impressions has gone exponentially through the roof, right?
Mhm.
So the branding environments and the people that really know what they're doing. I read a stat the other day from some business journals that said that most modern and large, well-heeled branding firms were spending up to 70% of their time on client experience
Mhm.
as a measurable metric in what they're trying to deliver in the brand package or in the brand guide. Let's define client experience. What you and I were just talking about had to do with the first impression. Chris dresses a certain way. He's outfitted his office in a certain way that probably shows some creativity, but it's not outlandish because
Mhm.
you're a creative thinker, you're a problem solver. And people come in, and there was an article in Forbes that says that people normally form their first impressions as they're walking from the street into your business or they're going onto your website for the first time. It takes them 7 seconds to decide if you're going to be functional or not.
Wow.
And so internally, they're deciding, are they going to stick around based on that? I mean, they may
Mhm.
sit through your whole spiel, but they've already decided,
Mhm.
at least the initial point. So the first step in client experience is the first time you get a chance to meet someone. But in our business, Chris, there's several more steps in the experience. There's the time that after your first meeting, you decide to come back and sit for an hour or two together and do a deeper discovery.
Mhm.
That is a place of client experience. Then there's the time you come back in another meeting and you start to make selections and think about the strategies, and the client starts to make choices. Then there's another step. I can keep going, okay? But you're going to go on through a kind of implementation phase, a kind of delivery phase, and then there's actually steps to the client's experience after they close business with you. And those, by the way, are magic steps because it's often the difference in getting great referrals and not getting any referrals at all if you
Mhm.
know how to develop a relationship after. So that was a bit drawn out. I actually wrote a book on client experience. I don't have it with me to hold up. That would be very cool. I would look like I know what I was doing if I had that. But
Love
at Amazon, you can find Never Drop the Ball Again. It's a little book on how client experience will help your business grow, okay, by H.B. Pasley. And it goes through those 8 steps because I put them in steps so that even people who don't consider themselves highly empathetic or super intuitive or super creative, you could be the most cold engineering minded nerd in the world. You can read this book and go, aha, I think I know how to put client experience into a system. So I think the key in branding is no longer whether or not you've got the snazzy billboard and an icon that people recognize. People don't care anymore. Here's a question for you. When you go shopping on Amazon, because occasionally it hits you, you need something that Jeff Bezos has, you search the product, and then when you get to the product page, what's the first thing that you do to decide if this is going to be a product that you're going to read into further?
That's a good question. I mean, for me, it's just, is it prime shipping or not? I don't even know who's on the back end of it. You know,
Yeah,
it's
speed.
just like
After you check speed, how do you determine if the product is quality? If you're looking at some qualitative differences, what do you do?
probably reviews. Although,
Yeah, reviews.
yeah, although
All day long reviews.
that thing has changed too, though, because I started digging into, whatever, you're going to buy an axe on Amazon, which I do.
Hmm.
I bought an electric toothbrush the other day, right? And so like
Awesome.
there's 5,000 reviews, and you start digging in, and the thing that's tough is like a lot of these are fake reviews now. So it's really interesting, and that's where I think as the consumer and the client start trying to understand what's true and false, we've
Yep.
got to continue to innovate to make it easy for them to say, I trust you. And here's why.
That is correct. So you're hitting the nail on the head. The reason you have a problem because you're discerning, you realize that reviews can be scammed or worked, played. Okay. But the reason you have a problem with it is you want to trust the reviews. And now you're
Mhm.
mad because you can't trust all online reviews, right? But the reason you went there is the modern consumer no longer trusts the business to simply pitch the value cold. Here's the three things it does. You're like, I don't care. I want to see what John, Mary, and Steve say about it. Like, did they
Mhm.
actually get that value or did they say, nah, down with the value? So we want to find out very quickly, and we usually use human experience,
Mhm.
client experience, to be the primary judge of how the product or the service is going to go. Now, in your business and financial advising and strategy work around M&A things, people have to do this in a couple of different ways. One, they could see you on a website, but they're probably not going to set an appointment with you just because you have a website. That's weird. I
Mhm.
would guess that probably 99 out of 100 people you meet were referred to you or introduced to you by someone in your sphere. Is that correct?
Yeah, mainly. Yeah, I would say
Close. I
at
mean, I
least
was
at this
guessing at the
point.
data.
Yeah,
Occasionally, you'll get some
high
people that
level.
come in, but most come in on some sort of an introductory where they've heard the voice of someone say, I like Chris.
Mhm.
And then they start with you with a sense of experience that already has some trust component to it. And
Mhm.
I think that's our key. It doesn't matter, again, if you sell tires or if you're selling or if you're a medical professional. We believe that you're certified. Generally, we think you can probably work in those industries. I really don't need to see your diploma or your certifications, but I still want to know how do you treat me? How does your staff treat me? And how do others
Mhm.
talk about you?
Mhm.
And I got to be able to get that information as soon as possible. So if we're looking at marketing strategy together, Chris, I would say, well, let's make a list of your 10 favorite clients from this last year. Literally, make a list. Use first names if you want to protect the innocent. Let's brainstorm some things that they seem similar in demographics and psychographics. What kind of humans are they? What do they love? What are their adventures? What are the things that they're afraid of? What do they want to get to? We look at that, we kind of create a profile and we go, aha, this is a pointer towards what our ideal client looks like. And then we say, what kind of ways do they go out and prove that they're dealing with trustworthy people?
Mhm.
What do they do? Because that's per business, that's important. If you're selling a digital camera, you better get your digital online reviews in some serious conditions, right? If you're selling local roofing, you better have your Google reviews completely just awesome tasks. They better be the greatest thing ever. If you are working in financial services where you're limited in some of the things you can go out in the public and advertise because of the
Mhm.
SEC and FINRA, you've got to sort out how do I present client testimonials safely and or deliver relational authority because I'm connected to all the people that they already trust. How do I establish that?
Mhm.
So everybody's journey is going to be different, but it's all. By the way, we left this conversation. What sounded like we left branding, we're still in it. What I said was branding is built on client experience now. And client experience has a lot more to do with human interaction and building trust than it does in impressive logos.
Mhm.
And so each business owner has to decide how do they go about doing that with their best clients so they can increase that traction and keep growing, doing their thing.
Yeah,
Did
I
that
love
get
it.
too nerdy or did you?
No, I think
Okay.
that's really useful and tactical. A question that we love to ask our potential clients is, do you know what your business is worth? And if you sold your business today, would it fulfill your personal and financial goals? If you're a successful business owner, but you don't know when or how to sell your business, and if you've ever wondered what each additional day in your business is actually costing you, we'd love to chat. If you're ready to spend more time with your family, your friends, or traveling, come sit down with our team because when you work with exceptional business advisors, we'll help you build a blueprint to sell your business successfully and help you create, capture, and achieve your dream life. Don't wait for the right time. The time's now. Go ahead and scan the QR code or book a discovery appointment at excoadvisors.com. Let's talk even more tactical. So, what are some approaches? Hey, your branding is great, your marketing is great, you're attracting clients. I
Yep.
think a lot of our clients, their close rates, especially in, the space we play in is high net worth individuals, right? So it's a
Yeah.
different space. We're not selling $100 widget. We're selling something that is very, very high trust and competency. How do you approach once somebody walks in your office? And I'll share my thoughts too, because we've kind of flipped it on its ear. What's the approach you take when you meet with one of your clients to really just understand them and build trust?
Oh, this is great. By the way, you and I have shared some space together. Our wives have met each other. We've sat on your porch and shared a glass of wine. We've eaten exotic cheeses, some of which we liked and didn't like. We did that together. And part of it is because you are wise and you know that the people you want to get to know, you've got to figure out how to get them out of a pitch or business space
Mhm.
to see them in normal life and just go, oh, that's how you act. Okay.
Mhm.
So this is part of it is can we develop a conversation that is not guided completely by the service that we're delivering? So we are limited. I mean, we can't take everybody home with us that we meet every day. Okay. But so in my very first conversations with anybody, I did it this morning on the phone with a client that I was engaging who's been working in an interior design project with our firm. One of the first questions I ask is, tell me how in the world did you choose to become a dentist? This person was in a dental practice.
Mhm.
I mean, I said, were you a kid and it got on you? Were teeth exciting? Or what was it that got you going in that space? Now, that's related to their practice, but it's not related to what they're presently doing. Like they're expanding their practice, they're building a new building, and there's all that nerdy stuff going on in their brain. And they probably thought I was going to talk about interior design. So I got her to tell her story. And now we're off to the races. I learned so many things when I told you my story about doing that concert in the prison. I mean, your listeners actually figured a bunch of stuff out about me. They know a bunch
Mhm.
of things about me, and I don't have to say it.
Mhm.
And they're deciding if they have sort of an attraction toward me because of that, or if they think I'm a little weird because of that. And there's a few criteria on which they might base that decision. They're checking in or checking out. I learned to tell my own story in a certain way because I want people to check in and I want some people to check out because
I
I
love it.
cannot spend my time with everybody in the world. So I think what we do, back to the original question, is I think those of us who spend more time trying to genuinely get to know the people that we're meeting and tell those voices in the back of our head that want to sell the service to just shut up and sit down for a while,
Mhm.
that to me is the fastest track to building authentic trust, genuine interest in the lives of others. And you might discover that you have something that they need, and you might not if you're quiet enough on the inside,
Mhm.
because you might end up needing to give a referral and tell them to go down the street where they sell cat food and not dog food. We sell dog food here. You forgot to tell me you had a cat. You need to go down the street, instead of spending a whole hour talking about your love for animals. Ugh. So the more we listen to others, the more we get them to tell their stories, and often it's stories outside of work, that usually the faster track we have at building trust. And I think that's super important.
I
Every
love that,
business
man.
is different, Chris. Some of us have a lot of time, some of us have microseconds to do this, but there's always a strategic way to get that authentic interest in the other person's life in the mix, as
Mhm.
fast as we can.
Yeah, I think that approach, I mean, our close rate is high 90s. I mean, if it's a fit, we're going to close that business. And the only
Yeah.
difference is we have all these beautiful PowerPoint presentations, all of these beautiful charts and things. And my brother Caleb, who's my partner in this business, he's like, you never actually go through our presentation. I'm like, yeah, because I'm going to sit down and we're going to talk through this person's needs, dreams, desires. And if we're a fit and they're a fit, it's going to take me 5 minutes to explain our process. And then usually they don't even ask anything else. They're like, yes, in the engagement agreement. We understand what you do, and we understand that here's our goal. You can help us achieve our goal. Let's make it happen. And then we've got to do more education, right, to make sure that they know exactly what's going on. But
Yeah.
usually they leave with me having talked for 5 minutes of an hour and a half conversation, and it's very high
Yeah.
level. Here's the process. It's actually pretty vanilla. It's pretty easy, pretty clear. We're going to
Yeah.
digitize it for you. Here's how we do it. Once again, here's some reviews, here's some referrals, here's, blah blah blah. And then they're like, "Sweet, let's move." And most of the times I get pitched, and it happened yesterday. We've got a digital provider for our lodging portfolio, and the sales guy starts into the pitch, and the CEO is on the call, and he says, hold on a second, hold on a second, Brian. He says, hey, Chris, like, what do you guys do? Like, tell me about your property, because this property looks amazing. Like, what are the problems? What are the pain points? And had they just gone through the pitch, I would have been like, this is not a fit. But because of his discovery, it was brilliant, right? He saw my pain points and then he was like, slide 4. This is exactly the thing that would help solve those pain points for you. We don't know.
Yeah.
I don't need to go through 30 slides because people are so tired of that. So that's really
Yeah.
interesting, man. I love that.
Well, I just to affirm you, Chris, we've spent some time together. We're neighbors. Our offices are touching each other on North Tejon and Colorado Springs. And so we have to be nice to each other. But I think we've found some mutual attraction, which is really sweet. Your manner is winsome, and you do love listening to stories. Your whole family, at least everybody I've met, I mean, you have 14 brothers and sisters, but I'm exaggerating the number only a little bit.
It's
You have a way of
pretty
telling
accurate.
and getting people to tell their stories. So I think that's you just exempling that sort of human experience that you want to relay. Now, what some of your listeners are going to be listening for is, well, what's the brand guy going to say if Chris has got a 90% close rate? I mean, have I become useless? I think there's two arenas that businesses like yours might consider putting on the board as you consider developing your brand. One is, are our present clients always referring bullseye clients to us, or are they referring a rather random selection of clients that we have to pick and choose from?
Yep.
The better your branding, the better your messaging, the better your focus is, you will start to see an uptick in percentage of referrals. And I'm not going to do the math on the show, but if we took 100 referrals this last year and you were at 30 or 40% awesome and the rest were good, you use the word qualified, but they weren't great. And I said, hey, what if we could get that to 60% awesome in a year and a half? That would have financial metrics and joy metrics in your heart, because there's certain people you are powerfully resonant with and some people that you're like pretty good with, pretty good, So the high close rate businesses, I think, want to look at that. And then, of course, that just equates to the other question, which I've already insinuated, which is, I'd love to see a list of your last 50 clients. Let's talk about those that bring you joy and profit, and those that refer like they're crazy, like they can't stop advocating for you. And then I want to figure out, what is the magic sauce that makes that person come into your space and meet you? And how do we get more of them and less of everyone else? Because at some point in business, once we realize our value is awesome, we can look out in front of us and realize there's a line of 1,000 people from in front of us all the way across the far horizon line waiting to talk to us. And what we have to do is figure out how to say yes, yes, no, 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 yes, no, yes, no, 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 which may sound a little cold, but we're doing people a favor if we know that we're not their ideal connection for the service, if they're not the best that resonates with us and brings us joy. It would be better to refer them out. Then our lives get richer, the hours go down, and the money goes up.
Yeah.
So anyway, that.
No,
I wasn't trying to preach to you. I just think it's in the mix of our conversation there.
I think that's really well said. Is if you have the wrong funnel and you have a high close rate on the wrong funnel, then your economics are going to look way different than the right funnel with the high close rate. And I'll give you an example, because this happened 2 weeks ago. We had a referral come in. Hey, we need some help building out business valuations and transition planning. I said, okay, great. Tell me a little bit more about it. And they said, yeah, well, this is a divorce proceeding. And I said, I'm just going to pause you there. We don't do divorce proceedings. We don't like the process of tearing things down, which is generally what happens. We are builders. We love helping people build businesses and exit in a way that's going to help somebody else take that business to the next level. And also, I don't want to be in court spending a ton of time talking to a judge when I should be talking with my clients and helping them. And I said, I really appreciate the referral. It's not a fit for me and my team, but I really appreciate it. And they loved it, because they're like, thank you for not wasting my time.
Yeah. So this idea that I'm more attracted to branding now because I can help my business clients. If they've got great branding, people self-select before they have to spend time with them. If your brand messaging is super clear, people say, that's definitely what I need, or no, that's not for me. And this is why business owners are so frightened. You didn't ask the question, but I'm going to answer it. What are people most afraid of when it comes to great branding? It's always specificity. I drive
I agree.
people towards shooting at the bullseye only, not the whole target. And they
Hmm.
usually hate that to begin with. Mentally, it feels like you're going to be cutting people out.
Yep.
But the more specific you can be, it helps people self-select in or out on their own. You end up with a much better client and referral list. I met with a client this morning, and I helped them 2 years ago develop their branding and their tagline. They do some interesting estate planning services for people that are mom and dad are about to hit Medicaid or need long-term care. Okay,
Hmm.
long-term care is a big deal. Boomers are booming. They're booming into retirement and beyond now.
Yep.
And their name was very curious. I won't go into that, but their tagline was first. We started for 2 years. They experimented with expert guidance with long-term care, or expert guides with long-term care. Great. So they went out into the world and tested this. What they found was they were still getting a lot of people who thought that they were Medicaid application planners
Hmm.
because the phrasing was just generic enough where it sounded like they probably just do that too. So we reformed their brand and their brand tagline just about 6 to 9 months ago. And now the tagline is learn how to pay for long-term care. Totally different.
Hmm.
That does not sound like a Medicaid application service. And their primary value is showing families actually how to get the finances that they need without doing something crazy, because Medicaid makes people crazy. What do they do with their assets? What do they do with their savings? What can they do with investment instruments to actually pay for the long-term care? And that singular thing has now narrowed the pipeline, and now they're happier
I love
because
it,
what's
man.
coming in the door is more in tune. So it's just an example. Everybody's got to figure out how to get that going, how to get into their website, how to get it into your socials, how to get it on your print, and how to get it into your physical space if you have one. So people come in the door and they go, oh, yeah, this is it. That's exactly the answer I need. This is exactly where I should be. And I can't wait to meet the person who's going to talk to me about it.
Yeah, that's so great. Okay, so we generally keep these kind of around 40 minutes. So we've got a few more minutes, and I want to zoom out a little bit. I
Okay.
always ask kind of three similar questions. One is, what's some bad advice you're hearing just generally in the branding space, or just some things you're seeing in social media that you're like, man, this approach I don't think is going to serve you well. And then, what's a tool, a book, a resource that you'd absolutely love?
On the first question, I think it's easy. Just don't do what everybody else is doing in your market space.
Mhm.
Stop copying the great brands. And a lot of marketing people without a lot of brand experience will come in and tell you to do it. They'll go, look, these 10 companies in your space do this. You should do that. I think it's dumb advice. I think it in no way allows you to build your authentic story. You're just a copycat. People know, Chris, if you're telling somebody else's story
Mhm. For sure.
or if you're telling your own, right? As soon as you start into the pitch, they know that this is some sort of pre-programmed thing. This is not you. So I think that's bad advice. I think you should find somebody who can help you tell your story. Bring in your story from doing the juvie hall. Bring in your story from your first job. Bring in your story
Mhm.
from your first bad dating experience. All these are stories that I tell.
Love it.
Let somebody help you get that in there. So that's the bad advice piece. On a book, it's curious. I I actually find myself recommending books that have a lot more to do with building trust than they have to do with marketing or branding. Because remember,
Mhm.
I primarily work with service professionals,
Mhm.
other coaches, people doing financial advisory work, attorneys, medical practitioners, because they are high trust, and then there's a lot of high value that's being transferred. It's not
Mhm.
cheap, so you can't transfer transactionally. So those are my favorite clients. I love almost everything that Patrick Lencioni has ever written.
I
But one
agree.
of his books that kind of went a little bit under the radar, a little bit of a sleeper hit, I think, is called The Naked Advisor. Oh, look, I can pull that one off my shelf.
Nice.
Getting Naked. I was going to call it The Naked Advisor, which was kind of exciting, wasn't it? But
Yeah, I was about to go pick up that book.
the reason I love this book is it is a great, wonderful, he always tells stories. It's a great example of how those of us who have something deeply valuable and strategic to share
Mhm.
should move into relationships deeply concerned about the other person without withholding any of our advising at the top, which I thought was fantastic because you're always worried, should I start billing? What if I give them a trade secret? Yada, yada,
Mhm.
yada. This book just kills it.
Love it.
And for people who are afraid of selling, it just sets you free because you're like, this book says, don't ever sell ever again. Just go advise. Don't
Mm.
ever pitch ever again. Just go start helping. I learned this a few years back, and I basically wait until new clients beg me for an invoice or ask me a question like, should I be paying you by now?
That's great.
I usually just wait for that. And then we go from there to establish, our financial partnership to get something done. But I love that book. I think it's a great read for anybody in professional services in particular.
That's great, man. All right. I'm going to close with one question, but where can people find you, HB? If somebody's like, man, I love this. I need him. He's got to be on my team. He needs to bring his big brain, his creativity over here. Where can somebody find you?
Well, I'm kind of old school. I'm 59, so I still use the voice feature on my phone. And it is okay with me if you
That
print
thing's
my
still a
phone number.
thing?
Yeah, you can actually use it. I actually
Wow.
answer it. My phone is 719. That's the Colorado here area code, 633-2515. If you call me, we'll just chat. You just go, hey, I saw you and Chris chatting, and we'll chat. If I'm busy, I'll say, hey, we'll set an appointment. Whatever, we'll talk. A way to kind of stalk me online without me knowing, I think you would probably go to pasleycommercialinteriors.com. You can see a lot about our branding services. You can meet my fabulous wife and her team. If you're really a professional services nerd and you've heard Chris and I talk about exit planning, assessing your business strength, client experience, focusing your messaging, you could also go to growthadvocate.com. As you know, Chris, I trademarked that term. I literally trademarked the term. I'm so in love with it. Advocating for other people's growth, I'm like, that is a happy place for me. So I self-title myself HB Pasley Growth Advocate, and I have that.com. And some of these very specific sort of growth coaching tools and philosophies are featured on that site. You can get to that stuff kind of quick there.
I love it, man. All right. So I have noticed an undercurrent of pessimism in our country. And
I thought you were going to tell me it was in me. Thanks. Let me off the
never
hook.
seen that. Never been around that with you before. But really, Brendan Bouchard has a saying that I've referenced a lot. He says, anytime I go anywhere, I want to bring the joy. So as we think about what's some wisdom you could leave the audience with, a bit of encouragement, a bit of hope for 2026 and moving forward for somebody who's like, man, there's so much coming at me. I'm not sure where to start. I'm not sure what to do. How would you leave our audience?
Oh, man, what a tee up. It's like this is the golf ball that if I could just hit this on the fairway every time, Chris, I could actually play golf. I do have an immediate thought that has come to my mind. It's come to my mind for the last 40 years, and I'm not exaggerating. I started coaching artists at the very beginning of my creative career because I was driven by one thing, and that was being a positive influence on other human beings. Artists would come and say, what should I do to write songs? How do I make an album? And I would say, forget all that. Why don't you just tell me who are the people that you love the most? And then let's just go figure out how to get to them. I don't care what you're doing with your style points. I just want to know if you can get to the people or not. So now in the modern era, now it's like I've traveled from stagecoach days till now. I look at business owners now who are terrified of what AI is going to do to them. They're terrified of how complicated marketing can be. They don't like the digitization of the world, or they're worried that Gen Z or Gen whatever is going to blow up the world, on them. I say, shh, tell it all to be quiet. Go start making a list of the people that you love. Start with your spouse and your kids. Start with go to your best friends, go to your colleagues, go to your top 10 favorite clients. Make that list, and you just tell me that you're going to put some effort in every week trying to get closer to them and trying to be more authentic and real with them. If you can do that and really focus on that, God made us to be available and to be availed by, like to interact with humans. We can't really know ourselves. We can't be happy if we hole up. And I'm an introvert. I've learned this the hard way. We've got to make ourselves available to the people that we love. And if you get good at that, the rest of it gets easy. AI will never replace it. Gen Z is not going to blow it up. Complicated marketing won't ruin your life. Even your business will prosper if you learn how to focus on loving human beings that are in your journey that you can actually touch, actually talk to. And if you can keep that at the center of your journey, I just put money on it that all the other stuff will become more healthy And you can start saying no to some crap that you haven't been able to get out of your life in forever because you're just obligated to it out of habit because you literally won't have time for it anymore. How about that for focused?
I love it, man. That's a great place to stop. HB, it's always a pleasure, man. And we'll get some more face-to-face time together, but really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you. I loved every bit of it, Chris. So provocative. Thank you.
Adios, my friend.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Exceptional Companies Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or via RSS so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you like this show, please reach out through our website, www.excoadvisors.com, for free tools to order a copy of Selling Main Street, or to sign up for our free webinar on how to sell your Main Street business.